Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm back with a video about university today, and I can't remember if I've made a video about university actually. If I have, I think it was only the vlog that I did from my graduation. So yeah, I thought I would just talk to you today about my experiences of university with chronic illness and disability. I kind of did think about making it into as well as my story, talking about tips and stuff for university, but I think I might make that into a separate video, otherwise it's just going to get a bit too long and you might not want both in the same video. So just for a quick introduction for anybody that doesn't know, I have a genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, as well as various other conditions that come with it. I've got POTS, gastroparesis, bladder dysfunction, mast cell activation disorder, and various other things. I'm not going to go into too much of that now, but just to kind of let you know that that is where I'm at. And yeah, I thought I would just use this video today as a bit of a kind of story time video, just to talk to you about my experiences of going and trying to go to university when you have a chronic illness and disability. So yeah, I hope maybe it will be helpful to some people who are in similar positions, or it might lead on to further videos from this that would be helpful to you if you're in a similar position or you're trying to get through uni with a disability. So I think I'm just going to get started because it's going to be quite a long story, and yeah, I don't want to be here all day. So from quite a young age, I was always quite aware that I wanted to go to university, that I wanted to get a degree. The only time that I kind of really didn't want to go to university was when I was quite young, and my dad would often talk about his university experiences, and he would talk about the kind of things he did with his friends. And one of the things he did a lot with his friends at university was that they would go out for a curry. And being very young, I was very young at this point, I remember, or my dad has told me that one day I just said to him, I was like, "Oh Dad, I really don't want to go to university." And he was like, "Why?" And I said, "Well, because I don't like curry." And he was like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, but because when you went to university, you said you had to go out for curry with your friends on a Friday." And he was like, "No, we just chose to do that." He was like, "You don't have to like curry to go to university." So that was my first experience of thinking about university as a child. Once he'd kind of said that to me, I was like, "Oh, okay, that's fine then, I can do it." So yeah, fast forward quite a few years, and basically my health started to get a lot worse when I was about 15. So it was just when I was doing my GCSEs. I had to stop going to school because I was too unwell. I had a home tutor. I dropped quite a few of my GCSEs, so I ended up doing, I think it was 7 GCSEs in the end, and I got good marks for them. I then started at college doing, oh gosh, what was I doing? I think I was doing biology, chemistry, physics and psychology, because at that point I wanted to be a doctor, and I just really wasn't well enough to be at college. I didn't last very long, and then I ended up in hospital, a psychiatric hospital actually, for nearly 8 months, because at that point my mental health was probably the thing that needed sorting out the most. My physical health was still bad, but my mental health needed sorting out. So I ended up dropping out of college for that year because I spent most of it in hospital. And then when I had come out of hospital and had started to kind of have to think about what I wanted to do, I just realised that I wasn't well enough to be a doctor. So something else I really enjoyed doing was working with children. So I went back to college to do a child development course, which was the equivalent of 3 A-levels. Really enjoyed it, and decided that I was going to go to university to study childhood and youth studies because I wanted to be a play therapist. I looked at various universities. At this point my health was kind of manageable, and I was going to college full time, so going to uni was kind of the next logical step for me. So I remember with my dad kind of going to various open days all over the country, kind of getting different vibes from each one, and in the end I decided that I wanted to go to Portsmouth University to do childhood and youth studies. So we kind of went through the process of that. We moved me down there and everything. And for the first term, I would say, up until Christmas, I quite enjoyed it. I tried to kind of take part in freshers and stuff. I found it quite difficult because I still was physically unwell. So I couldn't necessarily keep up with the rest of my friends down there. I would have to kind of go home early and couldn't always go out and stuff, which kind of makes it difficult when you're trying to make new friends. Then having to kind of say, oh, I need to go to bed because I'm tired. It made it difficult, but I'd found quite a nice group of friends and they seemed to understand. I was the course was all right. I wasn't massively excited about it, but I kind of thought, it's all right, it's only the first term, things might get more interesting. And then I went home for Christmas, and then when I went back again, I don't know whether coming home had made me realise, actually that I wasn't enjoying it as much as I thought I was. But when I went back, things just started to spiral. I started to get very, very depressed and anxious, and I just thought, this isn't for me. I'm not enjoying it. I hated where I was living because I was living in halls. The fire alarm was always going off. The people that I lived with were just ridiculously messy. I couldn't cook in the kitchen because there was so much mess, which wasn't good for someone who was still struggling with an eating disorder. I really wasn't enjoying the course that much, and my health, my physical health and mental health, were just getting worse and worse. So by the sort of January, February time, I had decided that I just couldn't be at that university anymore. It wasn't for me. I just wasn't happy there. I wasn't well there, and I had to make the really hard decision to leave. I just remember kind of packing up all my stuff and feeling like a complete failure, to be honest. And although I felt massively relieved as I left, kind of thinking, okay, I'm not, I'm not in a place that's making me unhappy anymore, I still felt, like a failure. I was like, oh, I've not even lasted a year at uni before having to drop out, and I felt rubbish, to be honest. And when I got home, I was just like, what am I going to do with my life? I can't cope with being away at uni. I don't know what I want to do. My health, I was trying to sort out my health because that was starting to get worse, and things just felt very bleak, to be honest. So yeah, I had a bit of time just sort of getting my head around where I was at the moment, trying to work out what I wanted to do. At that point, I kind of thought I still wanted to work with children, and I still really wanted to be a play therapist. And so I kind of looked into that a little bit more and found that you needed to have experience of working with children, and ideally you needed to have a degree of some description as well. So I was starting to think okay, how can I do this in a way that is going to fit around my health problems? And someone, I can't remember who it was, possibly my dad, suggested that I look at the Open University. I hadn't really thought about it before, to be honest, so I started to look into it and found that they did a psychology degree, and I kind of thought, okay, well, that sounds quite good. It was part-time, so I thought, yeah, I can fit this around my health. I can study from home. I can, there was a few sort of tutorials that you could go to, but they weren't compulsory, and I thought, yeah, this seems to be the right thing for me, and it was the right kind of degree that I would need if I was going to go into play therapy. So that kind of sorted that part stuff out, but I still needed experience of working with children. So I applied for a few different jobs, and eventually I was offered a job working in the school that I went to as a, what do you call it? Learning support assistant. I forgot that for a minute. So I was a learning support assistant part-time, which basically meant working with children with special educational needs, which was perfect really for the kind of experience that I needed. So for a few years things were kind of going okay. I was doing my part-time work, and then I was studying part-time with the Open University. I would go to kind of local tutorials, and yeah, things were kind of okay. It was hard work because you're having to be very like self-motivated, because you're obviously working from home and you haven't got the sort of university kind of experience of being like in a class with other people and stuff. There were forums and stuff to talk to others, but ultimately you are at home on your own, having to make sure you do the work that you're kind of set each week. So it was hard, but it was manageable. And then I went to they had like a weeks-long residential I think I went to the one in Bath. And they were really good about organising help for me sort of with my disabilities, making sure I was put in the right kind of accommodation. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was a brilliant week. And then we got to like 2012, and I was coming up towards the end of my degree. I only had like a couple of modules left to do, I think. And one of those modules included another residential, which I thought, okay, that's fine. I've done it before, I can do it again. But my physical health was starting to get worse, and I got really, really quite unwell in 2012, and the residential was meant to be in the summer of that 2012, and I just got to the point where I was like, I'm not going to be well enough to go. Like, I could barely leave the house. So I contacted the Open University and said, look, I can't do the residential, what can I do? And they said, well, we have got an online version, but you still need to be like logged in from, I can't remember what like the timings were, but you had to be logged in for most of the day, like taking part in the online sort of residential thing. And I had just got to the point where I really wasn't well enough to even be doing that like all day. So in the end, they kind of said, well, you can like defer it and stuff. And in the end, I just had to say, look, I'm not well enough. I'm going to have to stop and then restart the whole module again if and when I feel better. Which again was very, very demoralising. I had spent so much time and energy putting into getting these modules done, and I'd spent a lot of time on this particular module and found it so frustrating that just because I couldn't do the end bit, which was this residential, that I would have to redo the whole module. And again, I felt like a complete failure. I was like, this is the second time I've had to effectively drop out of university. And yeah, I felt rubbish, but my health kind of just took over. I ended up in hospital, and that was that basically. I had to stop studying again because my health had to come first. So yeah, I was in a general hospital for quite a few months. I had to be tube fed. I had a lot of tests to try and find out what was going on, and things didn't go particularly well. Basically, I won't go into it too much now because this is about uni and not my health, but basically I ended up being sectioned, and so was taken to another hospital and spent a bit of time in there. And for I'm trying to think now, it must have been like at least 2 or 3 years, I just wasn't well enough to even consider studying. I had to focus on my health. I went into an eating disorder sort of day unit program, so that just took up all my time. So yeah, at that point I wasn't in the right kind of space to even think about university or studying or anything like that. Things slowly improved a bit mentally. Physically things weren't great still. But I got to a point where I'd sort of come off the day programme and had a lot more spare time, and so I started to think again about what am I going to do with my life. And I still at that point really wanted to work in a some sort of healthcare role. I knew that being a doctor was pretty much out of the question because my health just wasn't good enough. So I started thinking about other things that I could do, and I thought about kind of nursing and stuff like that, and eventually I say settled, I don't mean settled, I kind of came to an idea that I could be an occupational therapist, and that kind of seemed to tick a lot of the boxes because you get a lot more patient time, and it was still sort of like slightly medical type degree, like job, and yeah, it just seemed to really kind of fit what I was looking for. So I then looked into like what do you need to get onto like a university course to do occupational therapy, and basically I didn't have what I needed because I didn't have any kind of A-levels in science subjects. So I enrolled in a local college to do something called an access course, which is basically like doing A-levels but for older people. So I did biology, chemistry, psychology and sociology, and it was a year course, and it was pretty much the hardest thing I've ever done. I think it was intense because you're doing 4 A-levels basically in a year. I had a brilliant time as well. I met some great friends. The college were very, very good with my health conditions. They gave me extensions when I needed them, offered support, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was hard work, and my physical health was getting worse, and I was kind of getting to the point where I was like, I don't think I'm going to complete this because I'm too ill. But somehow, I don't know how, I managed to complete it, and I got really good marks like coming out of that, so I was really, really pleased with myself. Kind of coming towards the end of that, I had to then start thinking about applying to university. So again, we went to some open days and went to sort of more local universities because I thought I can't live away from home again, or if I do, it needs to be close. So yeah, I went to a couple of open days, absolutely loved them. I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. It was so me, it was really interesting. And I was offered a place at Brunel University to study occupational therapy. But as time went on, I just thought, I'm not well enough. I can't, because I knew that the course was going to be quite intense because it would be every day. You'd have lectures, you'd have the work experience, you'd be in hospitals, and I was struggling to do not as much as that. And I just thought, I'm setting myself up to fail here. If I go, I pretty much know I'm either going to end up in hospital or I'm going to just end up really ill and having to drop out. And I just didn't think I could put myself through that again. So I thought about it a lot and spoke to my parents about it and spoke to my tutors about it, and came to the decision to withdraw my application for occupational therapy because, yeah, I just couldn't go through failure again because I'd been through so much of sort of feeling like I'd failed, and I just thought I can't do it again. And I felt devastated when I withdrew that application because I was with the rest of my classmates and a lot of them were going on to do nursing and stuff like that, so I was seeing them kind of go through that and going into their university applications and being really excited, and I just felt like, again, I had my future taken away from me, and I was just like, I don't know what to do. Have I just spent the last year doing this for nothing? And I was just like, yeah, I was completely lost. I just thought, I don't know what to do. Am I going to just have to admit defeat and think I'm not going to go to university because my health isn't good enough? And it was kind of around that time that my dad said, had I ever thought about doing journalism? And I was like, I don't know anything about journalism, like why would I do journalism? And he was like, well, you write a blog, you make videos, you've always enjoyed writing and English and that kind of thing. He was like, you're kind of doing journalism anyway with your blog, like why don't you look into it and see if you think it's something that you would be interested in? So the more I thought about it, the more I was like, actually, like, yeah, this is something I enjoy. For a long time I was worried that I would feel like I was settling for second best because I'd always wanted to do something medical, and obviously journalism was something completely different to the medical stuff that I'd been looking at. But I kind of thought, okay, well, I enjoy writing, I enjoy doing my blog, let's give it a go and see what happens. Like at this point I just felt like I had nothing else to lose. So I then started looking at universities that did journalism courses. And by that point I was like pretty much adamant. I was like, I cannot live away from home. I need the support of my family. And that, yeah, living away from home was just going to be too much. So I only looked at very, very local places. And one of the places that I looked at was UCA in Farnham. And I went along, spoke to the course leader, and I got a really good feeling about it. I thought, yep, this is close enough that I can commute from home. The course sounds really interesting. So I was like, yeah, let's give it a go. I'd missed the application deadline for UCAS, but the course leader said, send in the application anyway, and we'll see what we can do. So I did that, went for like, did I have another interview? I can't even remember if I had another interview. But basically I was offered a place. So yeah, I had kind of gone full circle of like feeling like I wasn't going to go to university, having to drop out or withdraw my application for OT, and within the space of that year had then put in another application to study journalism at UCA in Farnham. So I remember literally it must have been a couple of weeks before the course was due to start, I had a massive wobble. I said to my dad, I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if this is the right path for me. I still want to do medical stuff. And I just hadn't been able to let go of that longing to be a doctor or to do something medical. And I was like, I feel like I'm making the wrong decision. I need to withdraw my application. I can't do it. And thankfully he talked me out of it. He said, just give it a go, see how you get on. You know, you might find you enjoy it. So I was like, fine, whatever, I'll try it and see. The university had organised for me to have a support worker, because at that point I was in a manual wheelchair which I couldn't power myself, so I needed someone to sort of push me around to help me sort of access lectures a bit more because of my disability and health problems. So I met her on the first day and she was absolutely lovely. And yeah, I started my journalism degree at Farnham, and the first like month, maybe couple of months, I kind of went to my lectures. I didn't really feel like I fitted in because I was the oldest person there. Everyone else pretty much was just out of school and I was like a lot older. I felt very, very different. One, because of like being in a wheelchair, people were maybe a little bit nervous about sort of approaching me and stuff. I really tried to put myself out there to kind of show them that, you know, I was a normal person, that I wanted to join in, but also I just felt very, very different because I was in a very, very different stage of my life. And I kind of found the lectures interesting for the first month or so, but I was still not sure if it was right for me, and I was still thinking, am I settling for second best? You know, is this just going to be something that I kind of feel like I'm having to do because I can't do anything else? But gradually, as time went on, I started to enjoy it a lot more. I made friends in my class. I started to feel part of it more, and yeah, time kind of continued to go on, and I just felt more and more like it was the right thing for me, which was a nice feeling actually, because I'd been so worried about feeling like it was going to just be me settling. So to feel like, yeah, this is the right path, and yeah, I feel like I fit in and I'm really enjoying this, was quite a nice relief to have. So my course was 3 years. It wasn't the easiest 3 years by any stretch of the imagination. My health was still not good. I was kind of up and down in hospital, having different operations and tests and all sorts of stuff. But the university were really, really, really supportive. My course leader and stuff was very, very supportive. And yeah, it just made it a good experience for me. Living at home helped massively because I just didn't have that extra stuff to worry about of like not having the support of my family or being away from my family. I kind of did feel a little bit like I missed out on the social side of stuff, just because I wasn't living on campus, and so I didn't really do the sort of like going out. I mean, there's not really a huge amount of places to go out in Farnham, but I didn't do like the SU stuff and, you know, things like that. But that didn't bother me too much because I'm not that bothered about going out clubbing or anything like that. And because I'd started to make a good group of friends in my class, we would often go out for like coffee or lunch or something like that. So I still felt like I had the social sort of aspect that I needed. But But yeah, the 3 years were difficult, and there were definitely times when I thought, I feel like I'm going to have to drop out because I wasn't well enough, or I felt like I was really struggling to keep up. But yeah, I was just very, very well supported, and I think that's ultimately what made it a good experience for me. I had the support of my support worker. I had a mentor who I would see once a week to go through like what work I had and try and help me prioritize it. But she would also like communicate with my course team if I needed extra time, or if I needed some more support, or if I needed an extension. And yeah, I think all of that, plus having a good course team, was definitely what helped me get through the 3 years. And I loved it, I really did. I surprised myself, I think, because I suppose I'd come in with quite a negative outlook on it, thinking that I wouldn't enjoy it, that I would drop out. And yeah, it kind of changed my mind, and it made me realise that it was just a different path. It wasn't settling for second best. It was just finding a path that worked better for me, both in that it fitted around my health problems, but also that it still meant something to me. And I think both of those things were quite important, because if I'd gone and done something that just fitted around my mental health problems, but that I didn't really enjoy, then I wouldn't have completed it, because it wouldn't have been important enough to me. Whereas because I was enjoying it, and because it tapped into another part of me that, a part of me of something that I enjoyed, yeah, it made me want to continue, and it made me start to think, okay, just because I can't be a doctor doesn't mean I can't find something equally good that I would still enjoy equally as much. It's just not going to be the same thing, but it doesn't make it any less good or important. So yeah, that kind of brings me to last summer, I guess, which is when I graduated. I graduated with a first, which I was just I was happy with. I was shocked about. I knew I'd put in a lot of work, but I think for so long I'd wanted to go to university, and for so long I'd wanted to get a degree, I just couldn't quite get my head around the fact that, oh my gosh, I've finished like my degree, I've got a first, I'm graduating. I'm walking across that stage like to pick up my certificate in my like hat and gown and stuff, just felt completely surreal. I kind of thought, am I dreaming? I've been wanting this for so long, and I can't quite believe that I'm finally there. I still can't quite get my head around it, but yeah, I did it, and I'm really happy. And I know a lot of people say, oh, a degree's just a bit of paper, like it's not the end of the world, why are you that bothered about getting a degree? But for me, it's something that I'd always wanted to do. I'd always wanted to go to university, I'd always wanted to graduate, and yeah, being able to finally make that happen was amazing, pretty much. And I think, a lot of the reason that I managed to do it in the end was because I'd had times before that hadn't worked. Because although at the time those times seemed awful and I felt like a complete failure and I felt like everything was falling apart, I learned from those times about what I needed and what I wanted. So I learned that for me, living away from home at that point wasn't right for me. I needed to stay at home. I also learned from the Open University that studying on my own wasn't right for me either, because I got to the point where I just felt lonely, I didn't feel part of anything. And so I knew that although I needed to live at home, I also needed to be able to go into university regularly and have that kind of experience as well. So although at the time those times were awful, actually without them I don't think I would have ever got to a point of graduating and getting my degree. So yeah, it's good, I suppose, with hindsight to be able to look back at those things and think, okay, they happened for a reason. But yeah, I truly believe that they did, and I truly believe that they have got me to the point that I'm at now. So yeah, I'm now a fully qualified journalist, whatever that means. I mean, it's quite an open degree, I think, because I look at what my friends are doing now and it's so varied. You know, they're not all necessarily doing journalism, but I think it has set me up with a lot of skills to be able to do all sorts of things, really. And it definitely, I think, has helped me with my blog and my YouTube, just understanding the industry and, you know, writing, and we've made videos and things like that, and editing, and I think it's really helped with that kind of stuff as well. But also it's just given me confidence, I think, that I can do things. It's just about finding ways around it and finding ways to adapt and finding the right support. That's been very, very important, I think. And yeah, I think it's just given me a bit of a boost that although things are hard, and although I can't change the fact that I've got health problems and that they are going to make things more difficult, I can still do stuff and I can still do the things that I want to do. It's just about finding a way around it. So yeah, as I said at the beginning of the video, I was going to talk about some like tips and stuff for, you know, going to university with a chronic illness, but I think I might wait and leave that for another video just to make it not too long. But I'm kind of hoping that through talking about my experiences of uni with a chronic illness and disability, that it might raise some questions that I might be able to answer. So if you're in a similar position, or if you're thinking about university and I just have no idea how to make it work, and you have a chronic illness, or if you're at university and you're struggling with something, I would be really, really interested to hear what sort of videos that would be helpful for you, for me to make. So obviously I'm not an expert, but from my story, you'll know that I've pretty much done quite a few different types of uni, trying different things. So are there any particular videos you'd like to see me make about specific parts of university or specific areas of going to university with a chronic illness? Do you have any questions that you want me to answer? Just let me know in the comments below, because the reason I want to make this video is to try and help other people in similar situations. So if you've enjoyed it and you want to see more videos, please do give me a like and subscribe to my channel. As I said, leave me comments with questions, video ideas, anything like that, or just comments on my experiences. I'm really interested to hear them. And yeah, I will see you all in another video very soon. Bye!